Good morning, esteemed regulators, distinguished industry leaders, and partners. It's such a joy and pleasure to be here. Thank you for all those who are involved in this session and the event as a whole, making it bigger and bigger as the years pass. In the spirit of Ubuntu, the belief that I am because we are, today's conversation will be a reminder that Africa's regulatory success is not defined by individual agency achievements, but by our collective capacity to align, collaborate, and strengthen one another. Regulatory convergence is not just a technical ambition. It's a shared moral and public health responsibility. We are witnessing encouraging momentums from the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization to the operationalization of the African Medicines Agency. We are shaping a more cohesive, agile, and trusted regulatory ecosystem, one that equitably serves our people. And without further ado, I would like to welcome on stage our first speaker who will set the scene for our session. Dr. Nancy Ngum. Dr. Ngum is a public health expert at the African Union Development Agency, driving the operationalization of the African Medicines Agency, AMA, and coordinating regional harmonization efforts across Africa. She leads a continental team developing the regulatory information management system and information platform to strengthen regulatory collaboration. With a PhD in regulatory science from the University of Hertfordshire, her research and publications reflect a deep commitment to ensuring timely patient access to safe, effective, and high-quality medications in Africa. Please welcome me in joining Dr. Nancy on the stage.
Good morning, everyone. I wish to take this opportunity to thank the organizers of the AfriSummit, to invite the African Union Development Agency, NEPAD, to make this presentation. So I was tasked to present on advancing regulatory harmonization in Africa. And I think as you heard the earlier speakers, they emphasized the importance of harmonization in Africa. So I'm going to take you through the journey of harmonization. My presentation is going to have a background where we're coming from, objectives of the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, benefits of harmonization, the AMRH as a foundation of the African Medicines Agency. I'm also going to give you updates on the AMRH AMA Continental pilot that was conducted recently. So where are we coming from with harmonization? We have the African Union decision was made in 2005 on development of pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa within the NEPAD framework. So AUDA-NEPAD is the development agency of the African Union. We implement the decisions of the African heads of state. So they made this decision in 2005 that we promote local manufacturing in Africa. And as you all know, we have a vision 2063 that at least 60% of vaccines should be produced in Africa. But how can we achieve this? So after this decision was made, there was a need to create an enabling regulatory environment in Africa, because if you manufacture your products and there's no one to regulate, then you wouldn't get to the market. So that drove the need for harmonization. And that is when the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative was established to create an enabling environment for regulators in Africa so that we could build capacity of the regulators in Africa so that when these products are developed, at least they can regulate them and this will get into the market. And this program started in 2009. And the aim was to increase access to medical products and technologies in Africa, safe, effective, medical products. So this is the vision of the African Union on harmonization. This is our ecosystem, where we're looking at the 55 member states in Africa who have different regulatory frameworks, different regulatory legal frameworks, different regulatory capacity. So this is the landscape. And then the idea is to bring them within the regional platforms, which are the regional economic communities, and the 8 of them that exist on the continent. These platforms are now, the aim was to ensure that they can work together with the aim of having the African Medicines Agency. And I hope we all know we are following the development of the African Medicines Agency, which has recently been operationalized. So these are the objectives of the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, where we're looking, using the ecosystem approach, which is harmonization at the continental level through the African Medicines Agency. And then we're using the regional economic communities because the AMA cannot go to all the countries, so there's a need to use the regional blocks that I already explained earlier, 8 of them, to implement the program through their national regulatory authorities on the continent. So for each of the regions, they are working with the national regulatory authorities. If you look at North Africa, we're working closely with the Egyptian Drug Authority and all the authorities in the North African region. So the aim is to bring these regions to have single set of requirements, clear guidelines, fewer dossiers to prepare, and also the aim is to build stronger institutionalized regulatory capacity and system strengthening. So through the joint work, at least we're also trying to build and strengthen the regulatory systems on the continent. And there is a need for resource pooling. I think the chairman of the EDA mentioned earlier the importance of us all working together. Even with the European Medicines Agency, they are bringing the regulators together because each of them have different kinds of expertise. No one is expected to have it all. So it's very important for us to join resources, resource pooling. Sometimes we have NRAs that don't have the resources or they are less resourced, and when you bring them together with the stronger ones, they are learning. So the aim is actually to also build capacity through resource pooling, which will assist with transparency in the regulatory processes and clear guidelines and timelines. Because also one of the challenges, and I think you all know manufacturers, is the fact that your products take a long time to get to the market. So the aim is to make sure that these products get to the patients in good time. So we are trying to promote earlier approval by bringing the resources together, earlier approval of quality assured medical products. I think you also know that there's a lot of substandard and falsified medication on the continent. So we're looking at the fact that we need to improve access to medical products in Africa. So this is the Africa covered with the Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative. As I said earlier, they've all started at different times. We had the East African Community, which started in 2012, and then we've had Central African Community also starting to harmonize their work in 2009, and we have West Africa, which is the Economic Community of West African States. I think we have a representative from that region in the house. We also have Southern Africa, ZAZIBONA. They will all be speaking on this regional groupings during the discussions. Then we also have North Africa. North Africa is actually our newest baby on board. This was actually launched early this year, and we are pleased to announce that Egypt, the EDA chair, he's the chairman of the steering committee of the North African Medicines Harmonization Initiative. So I already spoke about the North African Initiative. I just wanted to show you the number of countries that are implementing North Africa. So these are the countries implementing the North African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization in the region. So we have 6 of them. My colleague, I think she's online, who is she's actually the host, which is Tunisia. They are the secretary of the North African Initiative. Dr. Mariam, I think she's going to speak more about the North Africa Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, because I know you all also are interested to understand the progress in North Africa. So the benefits of the Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, as we have indicated earlier, it's a streamlined regulatory approach where you're having one submission, one scientific review, and one recommendation that is applicable to all the member states. So if you come to the Southern African region, there are 15 countries, and then you can submit one application, and that will be applicable to all the member states if this one decision is made. And also the advantage is that it's less cost to the pharmaceutical industry and also to the regulatory authorities because they're all coming together to review the application. And this has actually led to efficiency and there's reduced time and duplication of efforts. I think earlier also the chairman of EDA indicated the importance of reducing duplication and also high level of expertise and competence of assessors and inspectors because we're selecting the best from the best, so you expect that the expertise is also of good quality. Then the overall achievement of the regulatory harmonization to the NRAs has been the development of standards, guidelines, and processes that have been harmonized at the regional level. So we're encouraging countries also to adopt the guidelines that have been developed with the regional framework. Countries within various regs have domesticated and implemented harmonized guidelines. The implementing regs have also initiated joint assessments, as I indicated earlier, and joint inspections, leading to reduced timelines for approval of product. The regs have also supported countries within their regions to build capacity towards attaining the maturity levels. I think you've heard how many countries are attaining maturity level 3 on the continent. They've also advocated through the reg platform for the domestication of the AU model law and the ratification of the African Medicines Agency Treaty. So the AU model law has actually been developed for countries to improve their regulatory frameworks. So this is the technical areas that the AMRH is supporting the operationalization of the African Medicines Agency. So we've established 10 technical committees, and these are focusing on all the regulatory functions. These technical committees are actually comprised of experts coming from the national regulatory authorities. We have for medical devices, for the Medicines Quality Forum, these are supporting the national control laboratories. We have the evaluation of medicinal products, where they've actually conducted the pilot for continental listing. Good manufacturing practice, so this will be the inspectors in the countries. Clinical trials and regulatory oversight, this is through the AVAREF, also on pharmacovigilance. Also the Technical Committee on Medicines Policy and Regulatory Reforms. These are the ones supporting the countries to not domesticate their laws, because most of the challenges we have, especially Reliance, if your country is not supporting, the law doesn't support, then you cannot implement some of the outcomes from the regional platforms. There's also Technical Committee on the substandard and falsified medicines. Then the information management system, that's the one that I'm leading, where we're also bringing experts to support countries to develop systems in the countries. We also have one on regulatory capacity development, where they are supporting training of experts on the continent. Then we also have the regs that we are supporting the regional groupings, and also directly supporting the NRAs to implement some of their institutional development plans. We've also developed a platform for partners, which we call it the AMRH Partnership Platform, where we have about 44 partners who are helping to support the work to achieve the goals of the AMRH initiative. Okay, there we go. I don't know who is managing. So it's freezing. Can you just move it? So also I'll be speaking to the AMRH as a foundation of the African Medicines Agency. We've developed 11 continental technical committees, as I indicated. We've developed 25 harmonized standards and guidelines. We've also established a network of African Reliance labs. So these are the laboratories in Africa that have good quality and standards so that other countries can also rely on these labs. As we said, you cannot have it all, so there is a need to have reference laboratories. There's also been the development of the AU model law that has led to about 25 countries that have actually reviewed their laws based on the AU model law. We've also had the 5 REG projects that are indicated. They've actually, through the REG platforms, they've been able to review about 803 applications, and 531 products have been approved, actually through the regional platforms. Also, 12 centers of excellence have been established. These are the centers of excellence that are supporting to build capacity of the regulators on the continent. So for each of the regulatory functions, we have centers of excellence. Also, we have had 44 partnership platform members that are supporting, so we have partners from international and African regions where they are supporting the MRH initiative. There's also been increased capacity. We've built increased capacity and confidence and trust. If you bring the countries together, then they build confidence with one another, they trust one another, which is very key in this space. There's also been increased reliance. Actually, the MRH has developed the Continental Reliance Framework, which is supporting the countries to implement reliance. When we say reliance, most of the NRAs, they talk about it, but the how is a problem. So we're trying to support the development of the reliance frameworks at the continental level and also through the regional groupings, and eventually the countries are also developing their reliance framework. And then as we know, the African Medicines Agency Treaty actually was adopted in 2019, and in 2021, it came into force when we had the 15 countries ratify the treaty. And we have about 32 state parties that have signed the African Medicines Agency. They've ratified the treaty. So the state parties are the countries that have actually signed the treaty, so they belong to the African Medicines Agency. We have the AMA board that has been operationalized, and we, as you all know, Rwanda is the office, and the DG just started last month. So updates on the AMRH AMA continental listing. So I would love you to see this because I think it's important. I'm not sure what's going on with this. Who is in the background, the technicians? Please, can we move the slides? Okay. So these are the products that were, the continental listing was testing and preparing for the African Medicines Agency. And these are the type of products that were received when the expression of interest was sent out for the pharmaceutical companies to apply for their products to be actually reviewed through the continental process. So the next slide was just to show you the continental listing of applications. These are all published in the Green Book, where we have 10 applications that have been listed at the continental level. So through the process, it means if you had actually submitted your application at the continental level, we ended up having 10 products that have been approved through the AMRH steering committee. This was reviewed through the Evaluation of Medicinal Product Technical Committee, the experts and the assessors on the continent who have reviewed these products, and it's been listed. There are also countries of interest that these products will be marketed to. So before the manufacturer came, they were asked to indicate the country of interest where they will be marketing their products to. And this was selected. And after the listing, the manufacturers have now gone to actually apply or send their applications to this NRA. So I wanted to show you the timelines it took. Unfortunately, we have problems with the slide. The timeline it took for this product to be marketed or to be actually registered in some of the countries, and this has been within the timeline, 210 days. So all the applications, from receipt of applications to when it was recommended, took about 210 days. And even the countries, because after that has happened, the manufacturer will now take the application to the country of interest. And most of the countries have registered this product within 90 days, because that's the target. If a product has been reviewed at the continental level and it gets to the NRA through Reliance, they can now register the products within 90 days. And most of this has actually been successful. So that's the slide that I wanted to show, and I think that is the end of my presentation. Sorry about the technical problems, but I'm sure you took the story. Thank you very much.
Hello, hello. So one of the things that we actually need to acquire as we're moving with Reliance is resilience to overcome all the various hiccups that comes across our way. And that's what Dr. Nancy just did with the technical hiccup that we had. So we're going to have today a panel discussion bringing together remarkable thought leaders from regulatory authorities and industry who embody the Ubuntu spirit through commitment to continuous collaboration and shared vision for collective progress. Together, we will explore how convergence, harmonization, reliance, and work sharing can translate into real, measurable impact, accelerating access to quality, safe, and effective medicines for every African patient. So I would like to again welcome Dr. Nancy Nugum to the stage. And I would like to introduce our esteemed panelists as well, starting with Mrs. Sakile Dubi-Mudzi. Mrs. Sakile is a seasoned pharmaceutical and regulatory expert with over 25 years of experience. She currently coordinates the SADC Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Program, achieving regional alignment through the Medicines Control Authority of Zimbabwe and the SADC Regulatories Forum. Her leadership has been pivotal in driving the successful implementation of ZAZIBONA across SADC member states. Our next esteemed panelist is Dr. Mariam Onalla. She will be joining us virtually. Dr. Mariam is a pharmacist and project manager, leading the digital transformation of Tunisia's Agency of Medicines and Health Products, overseeing both the integrated information system and the ACTD components. Dr. Mariam is also a member of the Provisional Secretariat of the North Africa Medicine Regulatory Harmonization Initiative and sits on the ANPS Implementation Committee, contributing to the strategic advancement of pharmaceutical regulation and policy shaping in Tunisia. Our next panelist as well is Dr. Sounia Benamour. Dr. Sounia is the head of the National Control Laboratory at Tunisia's National Regulatory Authority. She leads efforts to strengthen Tunisia's regulatory framework for medicines and vaccines. With over a decade of expertise in pharmacology, pharmacotoxicology, and regulatory science, she has authored key national guidelines, including those of Reliance registration and biosimilars. Regionally and globally, she contributes to the North Africa Medicine Regulatory Harmonization Initiative and the WHO Expert Committee on Biological Standardization, reflecting her leadership in advancing quality, safety, and regulatory excellence in public health. And last but not least, the view wouldn't be complete without having an industry thought leaders, and that will be Dr. Bunmi Fimi Oyekan. Dr. Bunmi is the regulatory lead senior director for Accord and Access at Pfizer. With over 32 years of experience in regulatory affairs, sales, and safety, she is recognized for her principled leadership and commitment to integrity and ethics. She also serves as co-chair of the IFPMA African Regulatory Network and contributes to strengthening regulatory systems across Africa through various policy and guideline development initiatives. Please give them a round of applause. So I'd like to start with Dr. Nancy, reflecting on the key milestones that you have just kindly shared on AMA. Looking ahead, how would you envision AMA's role in transforming Africa's regulatory landscape and enabling faster, more equitable access to medicines across Africa?
Thank you very much for that question. As I indicated earlier, the African Medicines Agency actually just started operationalization in October, and there is a scope of products that the African Medicines Agency is actually going to be reviewing, and the manufacturers are all invited to look at the scope, and the aim of the African Medicines Agency is to ensure that we have faster medical products go to the market in good time, of good quality, safe and effective. So within the African Medicines Agency, they will be working with the regional economic communities and through the national regulatory authorities to make sure that these products that are reviewed at the continental level get to the market in good time. So the aim is to maintain the timelines, which is 210 days, when the product, the application is received and is reviewed within the continental process. And after, when the product is recommended, then it will now be taken to the national authority of interest for them to use Reliance to actually register the product. And this is within the 90 days. So that is the landscape of the African Medicines Agency, using the continental ecosystem, the national processes, the regional processes, and eventually the continental process to support and ensure that the patient actually gets the medical product in good time. Thank you.
That's quite promising, and looking forward to live it. And that takes me to Mrs. Sakile. Earlier this year, African countries with WHO Maturity Level 3 have signed a Memorandum of Understanding to strengthen collaboration and alignment, a big step indeed toward regulatory convergence. How is the agreement translating into day-to-day convergence, or how's the practical collaboration between the authorities happening?
Thank you. So I will take it just one step back before we actually talk about the MOU. I was hoping that there would be a slide that would be projected so that it makes it very simple. So the whole issue with this convergence is, I've summed it up today as being a game of numbers. I think we've somehow, whether you've gambled or you don't gamble, but you understand the principle of gambling. So when you look at numbers, they all add up. And so in this instance, what we're basically saying is that one NMRA can do work, and then it will take them a whole year to do that one application. So if we take the simplest model and we say that the 6 or 7 that all have maturity level 3 all took 9 months to work on one application each, and then instead of all of them working on exactly the same one, taking their 9 months, if each of them sits around the table and they divide that work and actually say that you will do this one, I will do this one. And so in the end, we start off with each agency doing one application, but when they come together at a plenary, what do they have? They now have 6 applications that have actually been done in exactly the same time. So that is what these MOUs are now looking at, to say, if something is common amongst us, or has potential to be common amongst us, then if it's done once and for all by one agency, and then we all agree that the way that we would have assessed it is exactly the same, and just to make sure, you share with us your report, and we tick the boxes to make sure it really is the same application, and voila, we've now got more applications than what we individually worked on. But is the quality the same? Yes. Are people getting safe, efficacious medicines? Are we increasing availability? Yes. So it only makes sense.
Amazing. And indeed that this actually serves the patients at the heart at the end of the day. It seems it's going to be the year of Africa, because also Africa have reached another historic milestone this year with launching the North African Medicine Regulatory Harmonization Initiative, completing regional efforts toward full continental harmonization. Dr. Miriam, how is the milestone now being reflected in everyday regulatory collaboration and shared practices between North Africa countries?
Thank you so much, Madam Fatima and Dr. Nancy and all panelists in this panel. Good morning, everyone. And I'm really happy to be with you today for this new edition of AfriSummit, even I'm online. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this panel. And coming back to the question about North Africa MRH, I don't know if you are, if my slides are shared or not in your screen. I'm not seeing them, but there is some photos showing the moments from the first meeting of this of the 6 North African countries. The first meeting was with the presence or the, excuse me?
Yeah, we're seeing your slides.
Thank you. So we were Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania in the meeting. And they met to discuss, if you can put the second slide, they met to discuss how to integrate the African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Initiative in our region. During that meeting, the countries agreed that Tunisia would host the interim secretariat from April 2024 to February 2025. And so during this period, we started preparing the terms of reference for the governance structure and the roadmap for the North Africa MRH, and each country nominated focal points for the main regulatory functions. In the second in-person meeting, the next slide, please. And the second in-person meeting, which was in Egypt, we approved all the documents that we prepared, that were prepared during the first year. And the countries also approved the renewal of Tunisia's role as the secretariat and the chairmanship of Egypt for the steering committee, and Morocco as the co-chair. The countries also agreed on who will lead and co-lead each regulatory function. For GMP and inspection, it was Egypt as lead and Libya co-lead. For the marketing authorization, Algeria and Mauritania. For the pharmacovigilance, Egypt and Tunisia. And for the quality management system, Morocco and Egypt. And finally, for information management system, it's Tunisia and Egypt. The next slide, please. I'm not seeing your screen, so I think it's the next slide also. Since that meeting, we are supposed to draft a 5-year regional strategy, and for that, AUDA-NEPAD helped us to mobilize funds for recruiting consultants. So the TOR will be published soon. And we created also the technical working groups who are actually finalizing their roadmaps and the term of references for each group. And most of them are already completed. So that's where we stand now. And the Tunisian representatives in the 5 technical working groups are a part of the secretariat, and we always enjoy the discussions. It's really interesting and valuable to see the authorities speaking openly within the technical working groups, comparing our systems and noticing both the similarities and the differences. We're often surprised to see how much our challenges and issues look alike from one country to another. And it's also always a pleasure, a great pleasure, to meet and talk with our colleagues from the 6 countries. On behalf of the Secretariat, I would like to sincerely thank them for their continued collaboration and support. And of course, a special thank to our friends from Egypt who are attending the meeting at the AfriSummit. I wish I met you again in Egypt, but you have with you my colleagues from Tunisia, Dr. Sonia with us in this panel, and Dr. Sameh Badkhayat in the panel of ECTD. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maria. So, Dr. Sonia, we've heard that Reliance and Harmonization are being adopted at the African continent, at regional level, and even at smaller clusters. Tunisia has made great progress with Reliance. Can you please let us know more about the journey of Reliance in Tunisia and how it's positively impacting your day-to-day activities?
Yes, I hope the slides will be there to make it easier. Anyway, Tunisia started to work on participation to the CRP procedures with WHO and signed the agreement since 2024. Then we worked hardly to write the guideline and to put this framework for starting working with Reliance. This guideline was approved on August 2025 and implemented since September 2025. This regulatory framework will allow us to build upon WHO framework and regulatory decision and other trusted regulatory authority. It is structured. Next slide, please. Yes. So this is the guideline, already so implemented since September. We are just starting. But in between, we have agreed with WHO on CRP pre-qualification and strong regulatory authority CRP, and we already agreed on the internal Reliance with a list of countries that are shown here: USP, US FDA, EMA, Japan, Santé Canada, MHRA, Swiss Medic, and TGA. When the country is having one reference authority, it will go through an abridged review, and if the product is agreed by 2 authorities, it will go through verification. We know that verification is just administrative verification, but we have some, we are sticking to the benchmark of EMA and mainly WHO agreement. The product will have a full review if it's not allowed in any other strong regulatory or WLA or authority, and then it will go through a abridged review or verification if it's already approved by 1 strong or 2 strong authority. And you will see, I don't know if it's clear, but the timelines will be slightly the same of the one approved in WHO. The most interesting thing that when we go through this Reliance pathway, we got the chance to participate to the pilot scale assessment through Reliance. And we did it with 2 laboratories. We did it with Sanofi product and Roche product in collaboration with WHO, EMA, PAC Pilot Reliance project. What is interesting, as an example of what is going on, that for the Roche product, we got access to the unredacted report, to the scientific advice, and we got the content of the insufficiency that was given by the other NRAs. There were 48 countries who contributed to this pilot project, and 40 of them has responded yes and has reached the approval of the product in the timeline agreed with WHO and EMA. And it was 6 months because it was a major variation of the cells. What is interesting that when we do the assessment, when we did the assessment, it was an abridged review, and we found 10 insufficiency. Between these 10 insufficiency, 8 was answered when 6 was answered when we read the unredacted review. 2 others were answered through the questions of the other NRA, and 2 others was pending and was answered, let us say, 15 days before the time limit, and it was really interesting. For the other pilot project, it was with Sanofi, and it was modification of manufacturing process and some of analytical procedures. The dossier was submitted on 24 October 2024, and it was released in December 2024. So we stick to this 90 days, and we was happy with that. No insufficiency because of all questions were answered by the unredacted report. The conclusion of all this is not about this picky information, but that we did it, and we did it in 90 days, and it makes us, let us say, some confidence about that the Reliance will work, and we can do it through this normal pathway, through our benchmark, and through the countries where we will go Reliance. And we have this MRH project which is going on. We are starting now to build the trust with the different countries, now going to convergence of our regulatory requirements, then passing to joint evaluation, Reliance, and hoping that we can do mutual recognition. And it will help North Africa and AMA to work together to shorten these timelines, to get the patient access to innovative products in a short period, and with confidence that all our patients will be safe. Thank you.
Congratulations, indeed amazing, and it's music to our ears when Reliance in practice does actually work, and it helps everybody in the process, whether it's the health authority or the healthcare professionals or the patients, which can be anybody. We have seen great progress across Africa from regulatory authorities' perspective, and industry is indeed a pivotal partner in maintaining this momentum. From your perspective, Dr. Bunmi, where do you see the greatest opportunities to streamline quality analysis for new drug applications and life cycle managements in Africa, given how intense they can be and their impact that they can have on timely approvals?
Thank you so much, Dr. Fatima, and this is a very, very important question. So as an industry and, of course, as regulators as well, we ensuring efficacy, safety, and quality of medicines is a cornerstone of healthcare. And for this reason, the multinational companies usually would put their products through very stringent quality checks. And this is put through the follow stringent and international standards in achieving this quality oversight. And they also, what we also do is that we follow approved specification. And this is a very tall order because it's a very high standard that we follow through even through all the manufacturing process that we do. However, on the other hand, the regulators also, in the bid to perform their own local oversight, which is also important, as we know, the patient is actually at the center of it all. Many of the African countries actually do additional in-country testing, despite the fact that these products have already gone through stringent international regulatory checks. And this in-country testing is done for new applications, for post-approval changes, and also for products that enter the country. And what happens is that it poses a challenge in terms of efficiency of the regulatory process, challenge in terms of access to medicine, and also challenge in the fact that there is duplication. So it takes me to, and that is one of the things that we looked at as an industry. And last year, we actually conducted a survey, IFPMA, in collaboration with the Trade Association in French West Africa. We conducted a survey to understand what is the sample requirement in African countries and also what those samples are used for in terms of quality assessment. And this survey was done by 8 multinational innovative companies across 17 African countries. And the outcome of that survey showed that 50% of the countries in Africa, which would actually request for finished product samples, and in terms of quantity, ranging for new chemical entities, it ranged from 2 to 50 packs. And then for post-approval, is between 1 and 10. 39% of African countries actually request for finished product, API, and others. 11% request for finished product and APIs. So I don't really need to. Okay. So, and finally, 78% of the countries in Africa request for packs, sample packs for all forms of variation. And here is the challenge. With this current approach to sample requirement and quality testing, the challenge is that it results in delayed patient access to new medicines. Because when we're about to file for a new application, at that point, we don't have commercial samples available. And so providing the proper sample to register becomes really challenging. There are logistic hurdles, importation hurdles, there are storage hurdles, and all these eventually result in delayed submission, which can impact access. The other challenge with the current sample requirement and quality in-country testing that we have is that it results in supply interruptions. Some NRAs request implemented samples. When a change occurs, maybe when we have a variation, some NRAs request that we provide samples of the implemented change, which at that point is not yet produced. Okay. Okay, so, sorry. So at the point when, when there's a change, it hasn't been implemented. Meanwhile, the agency is asking us to provide samples of implemented change. We are not able to provide that, and that causes a delay and eventually causes drug shortage and eventual supply disruption. Then number 3, in terms of challenge, is the misuse of resource and safety risk. There's kind of the use of resource is actually kind of misused. There's improper handling. There could be improper handling of samples. Some of the times it could be diverted or improper storage. Those are the challenges. And then number 4 challenge is that there's repetitive lab testing, and this is a wastage of valuable laboratory resources, reagents and what have you, and even human resource. So with all this, we know that those are the challenges that sampling and in-country duplicative testing cause. So what are the opportunities for what's the way forward, and what do we recommend? It's reliance. Reliance on testing and approval decisions of other regulatory agencies could actually be helpful. It will help in reducing repetitive sampling, and then sampling can be limited to just complex and highly innovative molecules. And they also could consider using waivers, to waive in-country testing, and in situations where the requirement for sample or in-country testing is embedded in the legislation, then they can actually make use of waiver. Then the other recommendations is that we're also encouraging the use of the network of African Reliance laboratories, to actually, where necessary, the use of mock-ups rather than the actual sample, mock-up packs, artworks, or even the certificate of analysis. I remember at the SADC Reliance workshop about a few weeks ago, EMA actually mentioned the fact that the certificate of analysis should actually be sufficient. And then finally, prioritizing post-marketing surveillance. I think that's where the agencies can actually put in their effort. Testing samples will be risk-based, based on knowledge, and at the end of the day, there is early detection of suspected counterfeit in the supply chain, and that it can be intercepted as early as possible. In concluding, streamlining sample requirement and QC testing encourages the manufacturers who are interested in expanding their product or medicines even to greater reach within Africa. And secondly, it provides opportunity for more harmonized science-based regulatory practice, which result in improved access and healthy outcomes in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bunmi. And indeed, I think that's what's being adopted in Tunisia, that if the quality analysis had been performed in accredited laboratories that are recognized, then they don't do the retesting again. So since it's working somewhere within Africa, then why not adopting it across the full African continent? Talking about legacies and the fact that yesterday was the grand opening of Egypt Great Museum. Sitting here today, and I'd start with Dr. Nancy, if you are to keep a legacy for you from today's session that the audiences are to remember in 3 words, what would that be?
Yes, no, thank you very much. I think it would be reliance, reliance, reliance. And also building trust, because I think one of our challenges is trust. We need to work together, collaborate, and build trust so that we can be able to rely on each other's work. Thank you.
And Mrs. Sakile, what would your legacy be?
So the first thing I would say is the word scaling. What I mean by that is that we need to, a lot of money has gone into what Nancy has done at a continental level and what we have, ZAZIBONA, has done at a regional level and all the other regs. But then when you look at the outputs, unfortunately the slide didn't come up. When you look at the numbers, I'm bringing it back to the numbers again. When you look at the numbers, in ZAZIBONA, for example, did, I think, close to 500 products in a 10-year span. When you look at that, it looks like, wow. But then when you ask EDA or you ask TMDA in Tanzania, how many applications do you receive in a year? And then they tell you, 1,000. So what is 500 products over a space of 10 years? So what that means to both the regulator and to industry is that we now need to put our minds together to make the numbers work for this reliance. It costs a lot to put this whole mechanism in place. But if we're not utilizing it, if we're not scaling the numbers, then it's not really 100% doing public health benefit. So that is the one thing, the issue of scaling. And then the second thing would be about understanding that this is also supposed to open up the regulatory agencies to do more than just registration. It's actually a pity that we spend a whole lot of energy on the actual approval of the product, but there's very little attention to what happens after when the product is on the market. And when Bumi was actually presenting is, which, for lack of a better word, stupid manufacturer would submit a sample that is going to fail to a regulatory authority. So I think the wake-up call for the regulators as well is to say that if you spend so much of your energy, too much of it, in that one space at the expense of everything else, you will get a good product on marketing authorization day, and then who knows what is happening out there. Bumi, you represent an industry that's probably way ahead and understands quality, but there's also some where we need to be honest and say, let's safeguard ourselves. I'm not talking about the people in this room. We're talking about some other people out there that we need to protect ourselves against. And so it's for scaling. It's also about looking at the other regulatory authorities. And then the last one is about the win-win and the extra gains. So we also need to think about things like pooled procurement. We need to start thinking about what else is the impact of regulatory. Everybody understands regulatory in the regulatory space, but we also need to have our governments understanding regulation. We need to have those that have the money to put money into Reliance and back what we're doing combined as regulators and industry. I thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sakile. And I'll get back to Dr. Mariam online. What would your legacy be in 3 words only, for time's interest?
Thank you. So briefly and in one sentence, I will say that I believe really that the North African region can be a real economic power in pharmaceutical sector through harmonization. So we should go ahead, and that's all. And I wish to close my sentence and my intervention, I will wish to all participants a very fruitful and successful Congress. And I hope you all enjoy AfriSummit and your time in Egypt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mariam. Dr. Sonia, it gets harder, I know, as more people stand up.
But I think they said everything. I will just add, going to joint assessment, share our work, building this trust that we are speaking about, because actually everyone is, not confident. We have these challenges too. They not trust themselves, they not trust the others, and they're redoing the evaluation. Reliance is the key. Harmonization is the key. And most important thing, this mutual recognition of North African and African regulatory authority, which we will gain in time, in money, in patient health. So let us go in this way, and I think it will sure go to, and this independence we need of the African country that we need and we speak about since years. And thanks to the organizer to give me this opportunity to participate for the second time. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sonia. Dr. Bunmi, what would your legacy be in 3 words?
Thank you. Like everyone has said it actually, but let me try and find something different. I would say streamline. That's one. I would also say access. Medicine access, the patient, the center of everything we do. And we must constantly try to innovate the processes in the interest of access, even for the patient. So that would be my few words, not to repeat what everybody has said.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Dr. Bunmi. So as we close this insightful session, I would like to thank our esteemed panelists again, the organizers, our engaged audience for the shared perspectives. today reaffirmed that regulatory convergence is not only about systems alignment, it's more about solidarity. It's about the understanding that each country's progress strengthens our shared capacity to protect and promote public health across Africa. Let's carry the spirit of unity beyond Cairo into our daily interactions, into our partnerships, and into the decisions that will shape Africa's regulatory excellence. And when Africa moves together, we move further and faster for African patients and to inspire the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.